With Super Bowl 60 now in the books and the history being written on the 2025-26 NFL season, there are many debates that are still happening even as the dust at the Super Bowl has been cleared. One of which remains as to what is the current status of Sam Darnold? Is he a top-tier quarterback, or is he just an over-average or overachieving game manager, or could he actually be lesser than that? These questions and more on this edition of Gridiron Gab Pro Style.
The autumn winds move like the thunderous waves of Neptune's sacred palace. And here, amongst the blackened soil, lies the ragged hands, worn, torn, and callous. They await with cunning and vicious prowess, for the warriors have returned.
Come on, Dirt! Don't do it! Woo! No way! Woo! 85! Crying out loud! You're making me, driving me nuts!
But behold,
Welcome back, Gabbers. Thank you all so much for joining us here on this post-Super Bowl edition of Gridiron Gab Pro Style. Again, you are joined by the one and only Mr. CeeLo. And guys, as we go in officially to the 2026 offseason, I've got some great shows prepared for you. I got one, as I've said many times, working on why it would be in the Raiders' best interest to not take, that's right, not take Fernando Mendoza, number one. And I won't get into that here. You'll have to check the show out so you can find out. So if you know any Raiders fans, you know any Jets fans, you know any Cardinals fans, and you know any Browns fans. Well, maybe not Browns fans, but any team that's interested in that first pick, you might want, or any fans that are interested in what could occur with that first pick and how you can attain it. I tell you what, it ain't going to be like it was on a mock draft where the Colts were going to give up the 47th pick, the second and third round pick, when you got other teams that are giving up first and second round picks. I don't even know why they threw that out there. But anyway, let's get into it as my man Bruce over at the Format hit me up on my critique of the show and said, appreciate the shout out, brother. I didn't see a call from you, my bad. Hey, look, I'm just put that out there, brother. When you ready to have me on the show, I am ready, bud, because I saw some takes y'all had, and I'm about to do one of them like you guys talked about Sam Darnold. And B-More is going to have a bounce back season. Minner is going to get them back to playing Raven football, defense first. We'll see. I think ultimately a lot of the problem is Mike McDonald was the dude over there. You could see the footprint of Ravens defense all over Seattle. I mean, you know, not everybody has that mindset that McDonald has. I mean, and you've really not seen a lot of Ravens defensive coordinators have that same attitude since you go back to McDonald, and then you got to go back at least 3 or 4 coordinators and see that type of aggressive blitz package that the Ravens brought to the party. You haven't seen that in a while. It's been a lot of, I'm scared. The Ravens used to go all in. They used to be all or nothing, same as the Seattle Seahawks were this year. You know, you can look at Flores' defense in Minnesota. It's a lot like that. You look at Denver's defense. It's a lot like that. But let us get into the revolving question of the show, which is, and I must give a big time gab out to the Format because he presented it beautifully. And a lot of people mentioned it after the game on Sunday. And is Sam Darnold elite?
Bruh. Dumb shit. I
think that's a really good question. One that I don't have a definitive answer for, but I can just tell you what I believe his value is. I think he's a high game manager. given the fact that this is a guy that has thrown for 4,348 yards in the last 2 seasons. He's got 35 touchdowns dating back to last season with Minnesota, and then he had 25 touchdowns when you look back at this season. For me, when I look at Josh Allen, I look at Patrick Mahomes. I'm not going to talk about Lamar Jackson because here's the reality. Lamar Jackson is a large part of his own problem. I'm just saying. He is not your typical quarterback, so I don't consider him in that class with Josh Allen as well as Patrick Mahomes. And Zay Flowers is a great player, but you hear a lot of people say, well, he ain't no number one. I mean, it's like, gosh, how many more guys do you have to put around him? But that's not the show. Maybe I'll do a show on that. But when you look at guys like Matt Stafford, you look at guys like Sam Darnold, and they have their number ones. You get a guy like JSN who had over 1,700 yards receiving. Now, a lot of people are going to look at me and they're going to say, that ain't half. It's right there. It's like 40 to 45% of his pass yards went to Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'm not saying that this takes away from your ability to be an elite quarterback because you have a number one. I'm not saying that. What I'm simply saying is I look at these numbers and they're a little bit obscured. Because when you look at a guy like Josh Allen, you look at a guy like Patrick Mahomes, and these guys don't literally have a number one. It is strictly on your ability and your ability to find the open guy. And then, of course, it doesn't hurt when you have a guy like Andy Reid or a guy like Joe Brady. It took a lot for the Bills to say adios to Stephon Diggs. Took a lot for them to say adios to Gabe Davis when they let him walk. Because ultimately, when playing the quarterback position in the National Football League, continuity and chemistry are absolutely imperative. So when I talk about Sam Darnold, it's impressive that he went from Justin Jefferson. Just thought I'd throw that in there. You could really see he leaned on Justin Jefferson a lot during his time with the Minnesota Vikings, and I mean it was to his testament, and it's a lot of teams would quarterbacks would say, "Oh, I want to just stare down," and he did a great job. But I will say this in all fairness: there were 3 passes in that Super Bowl. If Sam Darnold makes them, they're touchdowns. See, to me, that's the difference between elite quarterbacks, above average quarterbacks. Look, the level between above average and elite, it ain't small. Those 3 plays that I'm talking about, the one where he missed Shaheed and Christian Gonzalez got a fingertip on it. Great, not giving it up. Great perseverance, not giving up on the play because he was beat badly. And then you talk about the JSN throw where you saw him in the Super Bowl as Jackson Smith and Jigba got away from his guy. That's going to be a walk-in touchdown. He just overshot him. That's the difference between a guy that's not too psyched up and a guy that understands the moment. He's got ice water in his veins. And then the one in front of the end zone where JSN beats Gonzalez across the face. Darnold's got to let that ball go either a split second earlier or he's got to put that thing further inside where JSN can protect it with his body. Not where he's got to turn sideways and try to pull that thing in with Gonzalez's hands right there in the way. Those are elite throws. And see, a lot of people are going to say, well, you nitpicking, you this and you that. Look, he wasn't overly impressive in the Super Bowl, and the Seahawks still won this game. He's a serviceable game manager that has the ability to go nuts any given game. But he's also one of those guys that he is so raw at times, he could turn the ball over 4 or 5 times and then have you in a situation where you can possibly win the game. Guys, remember that Rams game? I'm not going to say he's one of the guys that you add on this particular list where we talk about guys like Trent Dilfer, we talk about guys like Brad Johnson, Mark Rippon, Nick Foles, and Jeff Hostetler and Doug Williams, where you look at these guys and say, well, they won Super Bowls. Now, with the exception of Mark Rippon. Now, many of y'all don't remember. I remember when Mark Rippon just couldn't dang miss. I remember because that year they played the Falcons and they ran us out the damn building. And they put up 40-something points on everybody. Throwing it down the field, throwing it down the field, throwing it down the field. And then Mark Rippon just fell off the face of the earth. Yeah. Trent Dilfer managed the 2000 Ravens to a win, relying heavily on one of the history's best defense. That's absolutely true, and I know Bruce can relate to this. Trent Dilfer was just a guy that really handed the ball off. And he made a couple of good throws in his season, but it's not one of those that you remember. You know, people ask, it's kind of like that Bears team. Who was the quarterback to that team? McMahon? People say, Jim McMahon? And he was like the coolest guy in the commercial, but what's he doing here? Brad Johnson, solid starter for the 2002 Buccaneers, but no more for being a game manager than a superstar. That's absolutely true. I mean, you can't think of a handful of passes. I can't think of any that I remember that Brad Johnson threw as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was the Dunn and Allstott combo. And then you had guys like Rondé Barber, Warren Sapp. These guys were just absolutely relentless defensively. And then they just hit you with Ward Dunn and Mike Allstott. What you gonna do? They basically dared you to take a shot at that defense. And then people say Nick Foles. I don't know how I feel about Nick Foles. Because he was just one of those guys to me. He's like Eli Manning. Eli wasn't crazy good. I don't care what anybody says. You can hit me in the comments if you want to. Nick Foles seemed to show up when it mattered most, much like Eli. He's got some of the greatest photos and clips in Super Bowl history, much like Eli. They gave it to you when you needed it. And I don't know what Sam Darnold's legacy is going to be. I mean, there are people already talking that Seattle can't do this again. I've heard so many people say Seattle can't do this again. With this defense, ain't no flipping telling. Now, they do have some restrictions with the salary cap, but look, I get it. Kenneth Walker may not be back. I'm going to say it from this standpoint. I think Sam Darnold is a top-tier game manager. He could be considered a borderline star. Because, look, there are not a lot of game managers that throw for 4,000 yards. I do think this season's got to be one of those seasons where you prove it. And I think this is going to be a situation where I think the Seahawks may re-sign Shaheed and then go get a guy in the draft to complement JSN and Barner. You know, this is a team that is going to be set up defensively for at least the next 3 years. So this defense ain't going nowhere. And you can bet McDonald's going to be looking for guys that can play those supporting roles. Because you're going to have at least 3 or 4 guys that are going to be key contributors. And rookie Nick Emonrory, he ain't going nowhere. I can tell you right now, that kid ain't going nowhere. That kid going to stay. Because of his physical gifts. That's going to be a staple. Devin Witherspoon, that's going to be another guy that's probably going to stick around. But as I said, Sam Darnold, happy for him, not an elite guy. Not an elite guy, not yet. The third time's got to be a charm. This has got to be a situation where he has to show he can do it a third time. 4,000 yards yet again. You know, because ultimately, you got a bunch of these guys in here with Super Bowl wins, but they don't have the records to do it. I mean, you got a 3,000 yard year way back in your sophomore season in 2019. Wow, that was a long time ago. See, this is year 8 for Sam Darnold. So here you are in year 7 over 4,300 yards, and then you're over 25 year 8. You're at 4,000. So now you're in a situation where this is your team. Can you hold on to it? If Sam Darnold can come up here and repeat the 4,000 yard performance yet again, can I say that he's an elite company? I would say yes. Let me know what you guys think about Sam Darnold being elite. Is he elite already? Is he above average game manager? Or is he just a simple game manager? Let me know down in the comments. Also, if you are a first-time subscriber or a first-time watcher, make sure you put your name down and tell me where you're watching from. Also, make sure you hit that thumbs up and hit that bell notification so you can get all of my shows as they drop. Go over to Facebook and join our Facebook page, as well as joining the group Gridiron Gab Pro Style. I will try to stay active as much as I can during the year. And finally, make sure you go over to my Instagram at Mr. CeeLo so you can keep up with all my in-season shenanigans that I will be caught up in. But until the next time, same Gab channel, same Gab platform.
But behold, there is a warm breeze that comes from the west. The blazing sounds of victory fuel their everlasting quest. It is a call to arms, for they are here. An army that has the will to challenge and the will to dare.
I don't want you ever giving up.